Permission to come aboard.
Before we get started, does anyone want to get out?
And here we go.
Live from the Hollywood foothills of North Carolina, welcome to episode 104 of the Confirmed Epic Podcast, the official podcast of theepicreview.com and proudly presented by the Geeks Worldwide Radio Network. I'm one of your hosts, the real Brad Bell, and joining me today, live and in person for the first time in a long time, is not just a friend, but my partner, Jerry Reed, also known as
Barbecue 17. Hey, everybody. I'm glad to be back. It's good to be back.
And the audience is glad you're back, and they're glad we're back.
I'm glad to be here.
This is 2 episodes in a row. It's kind of hard to believe.
I'm not the podcast co-host that they need, but I'm the podcast co-host they deserve.
Yes, our 50 listeners really deserve what they get, which is about an average of 6 episodes per year on a
give or take
on a bi-monthly basis. No, but we want to try to get back on it and do some. We're not promising, some rigorous schedule, but we are, kind of getting to the point where we think things are settled with some careers. And I've had a kid for about a year now. Not that makes it any easier, but just kind of get used to juggling your schedule a little bit more. So we're definitely glad to be back, and we have a very special episode, and it's very fitting that the biggest DC fan I know probably is on this podcast with me today, because the main thing we're going to break down is the first trailer for Todd Phillips' Joker's origin film, which is out this October, starring Joaquin Phoenix. So we're both very excited to break that down, but before we do that, we have our usual segments of what we've been checking out and a few epic news items. So let's go ahead and get into what we've been checking out.
Check checklist? Check. Double check checking of checklist?
Jerry, since it's been a while since you've been on the Confirmed Epic Podcast, why don't you start with one thing you've been checking out this week?
Yeah, so something I've been checking out, it's not been just this week, it's actually been for a couple weeks now, or more of a month or so. I think it just came out at the end of February, but I just finished this morning DC's He-Man and the Masters of the Universe Omnibus.
So you read this entire thing in a month?
A little more.
This is
probably a little more than a month.
I'm reading the Jeff Johns Aquaman Omnibus, which I'm not going to talk about now because I'm not done. It is like a third of the size or like half the size of that, and I'm still working my way through it.
Yeah, this thing is huge.
It is.
It is over. I'm looking for the last page, because it's got a lot of art at the end and stuff that doesn't have page numbers, but it is at least. But it's a little under 1,500 pages.
I mean, when you look at this thing in person, because I've seen this on Amazon.
It weighs about 10.7, 10.8 pounds.
It looks like the old dictionaries when you would go into a public library, they would have opened
gosh.
up.
Yes.
That's what it looks like.
My grandparents had a dictionary on a big table that had little reading glasses with it.
Yeah.
It's that huge. If you bench press it every day, you'll start to look like He-Man. So I've been kind of, lifting up over my head, doing some bench pressing and stuff. So
I think you need the sword of power for that, Jerry.
Well, I'm working on it. So this is actually a really cool. Now, it is a huge omnibus. It is one of those that is so large, it was difficult to read at times just because you're trying to find a comfortable way to read it.
Did you lay it out on the table? This
I
isn't
either
one you're
laid it
in
out
bed,
or
right?
I did read it lay it on my bed a couple times, but I'd have to kind of spread it open and hold it with both hands and kind of rest it on my chest and stuff.
He's talking about the book, just so we're clear.
Yeah. So anyways, it collects the DC Masters of the Universe comic, which
is this the one that I read?
This is the one that you read a little bit at the beginning. It started
2013.
It started in 2013.
Yeah.
It changed creative teams a lot. Again, it wasn't a series where it just ran and ran and ran. It was like He-Man Masters of the Universe for 6 issues, and then it was called something else, and then it was actually Masters of the Universe versus DC Universe, and then it was Masters of the Universe: The Eternity War.
So where they're fighting the DC Universe, is that in this omnibus?
That's in this one as well. That's cool. Where they end up, the Joker ends up on Earth, and he's trying to use the magic from Earth, since there is a connection in Masters of the Universe that He-Man and She-Ra's mother, Marlena, is from Earth. She's an astronaut.
Marlena?
Yeah.
Like Martha?
Yeah, Marlena is from Earth. She's an astronaut, and so, anyways, there is a connection there. It's really cool. They end up involving the Justice League Dark. It has the Thundercats versus Masters of the Universe crossover, which is really its own thing, but it's actually one of the best things they did, because the characters really do look like the way you would expect them. They're great modern art, but they look like the classic characters in kind of their toy or filmation styles. I really liked it. I enjoyed rereading it. I remember when it first came out that I wasn't super thrilled with the first couple issues. Just had some.
I liked it. I remember reading it and thinking that it was something that may actually. That's really what introduced me to Masters of the Universe. Was that comic?
I'll let you borrow it. It is. It's interesting.
It would take me a year to read that.
I didn't love the first story arc, but as it gets going, it got significantly better. Okay, got significantly better. One of the things I thought was really weird about it, mostly I'm talking about the trade because the book is older, but it contains all of the issues that DC put out, although they are still doing a Masters of the Universe Injustice comic.
Yes.
It's still running, and they're getting ready to put the trade out for that.
So will you be picking that up, you think?
I will be. I've got it pre-ordered. The thing, though, is it's not included in here, so I almost kind of wish they would have waited a little bit and, put all of their stuff in there. But it's huge. All the art is nicely reprinted. It actually has 5 of the old comics that DC put out in the 80s.
Are those at the very end?
Yeah, they did like a DC Presents that was Superman, meets the Masters of the Universe. And then there was one that was kind of they called it like an insert. I don't know exactly what it originally appeared in. But then there was a 3-issue series that DC did that was very straight, swords and sorcery kind of writing. And actually, I have all 3 of those original issues over on my wall.
Yeah, they've been up
kind
there
of like
since as long as I've known
like
you.
a little triptych. So
I want to say that omnibuses fascinate me because you and I both transition to trades, and we read a lot of trades.
Yeah.
But there are certain things that I want the omnibus for, but I kind of pick and choose. But I'm almost to the point where I always have some omnibus to read. Like I read the Walking Dead compendiums. I never finished Volume 3 because I just got kind of burnt out. I'm over halfway through the Aquaman Jeff Johns omnibus, and I tell you what's coming out this fall. I don't know if you saw this on Amazon. I'll go in there and search their pre-orders for omnibuses and absolute editions, which you're not doing as much as the absolute anymore, which I'm glad. I like the omnibuses better. Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo's Batman.
Okay.
Getting an omnibus release. I think it's the first 31 or first 33 issues. And I sold all my single issues. So that's like my favorite Batman run ever, probably. And there's been some great ones, but it's my favorite, and I don't own those, so I'm definitely going to pick up that
See,
omnibus.
I have all the collected. I have all the trades, and then they released them all as nice hardcovers, and then they released some of the stories as well. Now, I recently read, this is an older, but they're re-releasing all of the tie-in issues for Crisis on Infinite Earths.
Yes, has that came out yet? Or
the first volume has. I don't know if the second has or not. I actually just finished the first volume couple weeks ago, but those are pretty interesting. There were some books that tied in really well with Crisis, and some were pretty kind of
out there.
They just weren't.
Which all of Crisis was out there, especially Final Crisis, which I know is a different story.
This is Crisis on Infinite Earths. But it's interesting with the Final.
That was the first Crisis, because I always that's
Crisis
the one where Flash dies, right?
Yeah, Crisis on Infinite Earths is the original one that reset the DC universe into pre-Crisis and post-Crisis continuity. But one of the things that's really interesting with it is, there's a whole listing of every book that was labeled as a Crisis tie-in, and you actually have about how DC planned it, because it was the first company-wide event like that.
Was it for DC and Marvel? The first, because wasn't Secret Wars after
Secret
that?
Wars was after.
Yeah.
And this was all of the books were affected by Crisis.
Yeah.
All the books were affected. And it had about how, certain creators really wanted to tie their books in very heavily to Crisis, while other creators kind of did the bare minimum.
And we still have that problem today in comics.
Yeah, but they talked about how like they would send out different directives that had to happen, and at one point during Crisis, all of the books had to have the skies turn red because that's something that happens in about the middle of Crisis on Infinite Earths. But the omnibuses are really great because you do get usually some extra material that gives a little bit insight into things. Like I said, this one has a lot of art. I wish I had a little bit more of like an introduction and with a little bit more of kind of setting about how this came about. But
what would you rate it? So I mean, I know it's a bunch of different individual stories, so that's kind of hard to do. So if you had to rate the omnibus overall on the confirmed epic rating scale, what would you give it?
For the omnibus itself, I would give it a great.
You're getting a lot.
I mean, you are getting a ton.
This thing, I mean, all omnibuses are expensive, but it wasn't like the most expensive omnibus that I've seen out there.
It retailed for $150, but it was easily found for around $75 to $80 if you pre-ordered or got it, pretty early on. The thing that keeps it from going from, above great for me is just again, there's not a lot of material. I would have liked a little more material explained about. I mean, why they rebooted this and how they came back with a Masters comic and a little bit more creator thought. One of the best, I will say, it's not really an omnibus, but is the G.I. Joe Marvel books.
Yeah,
Hama. Yeah, the Larry Hama series. They have been re-releasing those. I mean, they've been releasing them over a number of years, but just the amount of like in depth, and the Kevin Eastman, Peter Laird Ninja Turtle books do this too.
Yeah,
that they explain like things that happen in different panels and where they got ideas from. And I mean, we don't need that level of insight, but a little bit of material where
if it's something I really care about, like you do with Masters or we do for Ninja Turtles, like I like that kind of stuff. But if it's just an omnibus or a trade where I'm trying to get through the story, other than looking at the covers, I don't dive deep into a lot of that ancillary type of stuff.
Considering, I mean, this is DC's run on Masters. I know they're doing one more thing, but it would have been nice to have a little more context because they have a title page on each one.
Yeah.
But it's just the title and like the creative team. It would have been nice to have kind of a paragraph or two about, how it tied in everything else. And
how would you rate this on a camp scale, 1 to 10? Is it?
So here's one of the things about this book. This book is absolutely not kid friendly at all. It's amazingly how violent it is at times. And that was actually one of the things that was really, I don't want to say shocking for me. But, most Masters Universe stuff has typically always at least been in some way kid-friendly.
Yeah.
There's some pretty violent scenes in this book that I was like,
it's
oh my gosh.
It's like the Eastman and Laird Ninja Turtles compared to, like, Ninja Turtles the movie or something. Is it that violent?
I mean, there's, like, when someone swings a sword, there's, like, a blood spray. And I'm like, oh my gosh.
I think that's cool. But
it is cool. It is cool. I mean, don't get me wrong. I like the mature tone. There's times where it's like, I don't know if I like, if I'm loving that level of violence tied in with a Masters of the Universe comic yet.
You have your idea of the property and something you love tremendously. So when people toy with that, it can rub you the wrong. So overall, it sounded like it was a very enjoyable experience. And if you are a Masters fan, considering you can get this for about half price at like Amazon and in-stock trades, you'd recommend picking it up?
Yeah, absolutely. It it does some interesting things. It borrows a lot from different Masters. Yeah, that's kind of one thing with Masters of the Universe. I mean, there's not really one specific canon that everybody follows.
And it's not organized like the old Star Wars canon. Remember when there was like G-level canon and all that stuff?
Everything is its own. So this one borrows from, the bios on the back of the Masters Universe Classics toys. There's Filmation elements in there. There's elements from, the 2000 series. So it's just kind of another blend of all of these different things with its own unique ideas.
Which is cool because it's accessible to people who pick it up for the first time. Like I remember when I read those Masters comics, but for people like you who are in Toy Guru, who are the biggest Masters Universe fans out there, I mean, they're going to get a lot more out of it than somebody like me reading it.
Yeah, so absolutely. There's plenty of things for fans.
And it looks gorgeous. I mean, just like an omnibus, it looks like it's got the sewn binding that most omnibuses have and whatnot. And it's just a great book, it looks like to me. And I would like to check it out. I don't want to borrow it because I feel like I would read like what I've already read and never continue to read it because I got so much. I got the first 3 volumes of Captain Marvel. I got to read like the big trades. I actually have 2 collecting things that I've been checking out.
Okay, go for it.
Now one's a little older, okay, and I mentioned this to you on the air.
Yeah.
But a couple weeks ago, 2 good friends of mine, Josiah and Paul, had their 30th birthday. They're 2 years younger than I am. So I wanted to get them a gift. So I was looking for a collectible that wouldn't break the bank but still look a little nice. So I stumbled upon the Marvel and DC gallery figures from Diamond Select. They're about 9-inch to 10-inch statues that are plastic, okay?
Right.
But the paint now some of them the paint's iffy, but on most of them the paint's pretty high quality, especially for a figure that's costing you about $35 to $50, depending on where you're getting at. It's retail about $50, but like you said with the Masters thing, you can get most of these for like $35 on Amazon or BigBadToyStore.com or something like that. So I got Paul, the Aquaman, the Jason Momoa Aquaman. I got Joe, Old Man Logan. And those were cool, but for myself, I picked up the Man Who Laughs. So the Joker, Batman kind of hybrid from,
Metal.
Yeah, from Dark Knight Metal, Scott Snyder, Greg Capullo, which execution of that book, not the best. The concept, pretty cool. The characters, awesome looking. And, man, I absolutely love this thing because the paint on it looks like it would be a sideshow piece. But it was only $35. As a sideshow piece would be a lot bigger. It would be polystone. It would be a lot nicer. Yeah. But it would be $400 to $500 as what most of their premium formats. And the Iron Studios one, I believe that they're doing. Is it Iron Studios or XM Studios? One of those are doing like a $1,250 one, which I don't have that to spend on a Joker collectible. Unfortunately, I wish I did. But I absolutely love these. There's only one problem. Now I want more.
Yeah.
And they don't take up a lot of space. And what I like about them is they can go in a bookshelf nicely, so you could display them like beside your trades and depending on the shelf, if it's big enough in front of the trades or whatnot. I'm going to talk about some display stuff here in a minute.
Yeah.
But man, I don't know. I really like these. You don't have any of these, do you?
I have one Batgirl. Okay. I have one of the Batgirls. So, Diamond puts out a lot of stuff, and I think Diamond's strength is, Diamond gets things right to the comic shops.
Yeah.
And so the nice thing here is while, DC Collectibles and other groups have kind of done that as well, Diamond really hits a price point where I think folks are much more likely to buy on an impulse.
Yeah.
I know $35, $40 is not, I wouldn't say cheap.
But it's still like $20 cheaper than buying a new video game.
When you're talking about statues,
that's cheap.
A $35, $40 statue is really inexpensive, and that might hit somebody who's just kind of interested in the character, wants a cool display piece, etc., versus something where, DC Collectibles, you typically start, what's Batman black and white statues start? About $80, $100 and up?
70
about
to
70
80.
to 80.
And then the bigger ones, like you said,
I mean,
you're
if you
getting
get
up
talking
there.
Bombshells level, you're talking 100 to 125 is like your starting price. So they've done a really good job keeping that as a running line. They offer a lot of variety there too.
What is crazy is with the evil that the ones that DC Collectibles are putting out that are about 120, 130, the ones that Diamond's putting out look almost just as good. Not the Green Lantern one, but I think the one that is the Aqua Woman, the Drowned is what they call her.
Yeah.
And the one that's Red Death, the Flash. I think both those, the Diamond counterpart looks better than the DC Collectibles counterpart. Now, obviously, I hadn't seen these in person, right? I've only seen them online, but just based off of what I'm seeing. And now, to me, these are good if you're picking up comic-based figures because they seem to be really good on, like, artist interpretation, but not likeness when you're talking about movie figures.
Yeah, likeness gets to a point where, I mean, the benefit of working with harder materials, of working with, like, polystone or, something is that you can get finer, a finer level of detail because the plastic sometimes sculpts end up looking sometimes a little softer depending on the sculpts that the plastic that you use and whatnot.
Yeah, and you look at some of their sculpts, like the Black Widow one they did for Infinity War. Mm-hmm. She looks awesome. But then you look at like Captain America or Doctor Strange from Infinity War, they look really bad.
Yeah.
So there's just no consistency. So I think it would be hard to say like, all right, I'm going to get all the in-game or all the Infinity War figure. I think if as they came out, if there's one you really like, pick it up. But it would be hard to collect a line on their kind of ones that's based on real people, real life, like characters in movies as opposed to comic book characters. But yeah, no, I recommend them if you just want something that's an affordable collectible.
Yeah, they're like one ninth scale.
They're weird. They're they're like
kind of like a lot of the Kodubakaya stuff.
Yeah, they're about in scale with that.
Yeah.
So you could kind of display those together.
Now, I really like Kodubakaya because
they're a little more expensive.
They are more expensive, but they use a mixture of different types of plastic.
Yeah.
And I think their sculpts and the plastic they use, the paint, looks phenomenal.
You can't tell a difference between them and a polystone statue.
Yeah.
Usually when they're side by side. With the Diamond Select, you would be able to.
Yeah.
Especially if they were side by side. Maybe not if you were looking at them online. But yeah, I got the Man Who Laughs, and he's just awesome, and he's become a big part of the DC universe ever since that event happened. He's got his own little miniseries. He's shown up in some other big DC books that I'm not going to spoil for anybody.
I haven't read a lot beyond Metal at this point, I will say.
Yeah, like...
I haven't read a lot beyond Metal.
I'll say this. He is revealed to still be out there in a later DC book, and it's like a final page of an arc reveal.
Gotcha.
So I don't want to reveal what book that is in case you're reading it, and so I guess I just semi-spoiled that.
Semi-spoiler.
Yeah, but what else have you been checking out, Jerry? Because I see some figures right here.
Yeah, I've got a collectible item here I've been checking out. Brad's holding one in his hand. These are called The Worst. This is Super 7. So Super 7's a company that just does a mixture of different toys and t-shirts and glasses and things like that. The Worst is kind of their series that these are just random villains. They are just random villains that Super 7 has made up. And they are under the Reaction label, which
all the retro.
Funko used to do Reaction, but not sure of all the details. But I think Super 7 used to do some sculpting for Funko.
Yeah,
and so now these are completely under Super 7's production.
So are they still
and
doing the retro figures?
They are.
But
Super 7 has the Reaction license,
like the Rocky figures.
Yeah, they just showed the Rocky figures.
4,
they have a Masters of the Universe line. They have a couple others as well. But I really like The Worst because, again, these are those retro style figures that are kind of in the style of a vintage Kenner Star Wars figure. 5 points of articulation, sort of that, flat, just kind of standing there look to them. But I just bought them. I got them a couple. I've had them for about a month or so, but they're really cool. They're just random villains.
Yeah.
And so, the second series has Captain Deadstar, the Cosmic Ghoul Renegade, which is like a skeleton space pirate with a flaming sword and a peg leg, except it clearly appears to be like a cybernetic peg leg. You have Werewolf Biker, part werewolf, part biker.
We have this guy here who's the Bronze Tiger, right?
Yeah, this is Red Tiger.
Red Tiger,
okay. Who is clearly looks like maybe a mixture of someone with a tiger head, but like a luchador costume, definitely some wrestling.
It's like Tony the Tiger.
That actually has like a severed arm with him. So you can see the pictures. The
artwork is awesome. I think that's probably the best thing about
these.
So the
artwork is done by, I think it's Ed Repka. Who did a lot of like 80s album covers and stuff.
Oh, wow. You can tell.
So, yeah, I'm not 100% sure which ones he did, but I want to say things like maybe like Iron Maiden and Megadeth and things like that. I think I'm right. I might be wrong on that, but it is Ed Repka. So anyways, they're really fun. I don't buy many Reaction figures anymore, but
they're hard to display.
They're hard to display. I'm really trying to find a good way to display these guys, but I just, they're so interesting. It's so unusual to get any kind of toy line that is made up of all unique new characters.
Yeah, everything's based on previous properties.
Yeah, and so this is kind of fun. Here's Frankenghost. He's a translucent Frankenstein poltergeist with a robotic jaw, and he's covered in chains.
It's the uniqueness of these that make them work. These wouldn't be for everybody. Some people would just be collecting based on established licenses or characters, but for somebody who collects a lot or wants something kind of unique, these are kind of cool to pick up.
It'd be fun to take these to someone who'd never heard of The Worst, and then hand like the toys to them and try to see if they like think that they actually own these as a kid.
Yeah.
You know, because they do have this very 80s look about
The
them.
werewolf looks like a werewolf, if I remember one from the real Ghostbusters line.
I could definitely see.
That I
I could
had as a
definitely see
kid.
that the styling is there.
Do you know which one I'm talking about?
do, the one-
He had like a blue shirt,
He
I
squeezed
believe.
his legs and his head went
Yeah,
back. Yeah, he's
that
in
one.
the other room.
Yeah.
That was from the Ghostbusters Monsters line.
Okay,
They had like a
okay.
real monsters or whatever it was called, but they would, they had Quasimodo, Dracula, a zombie, a werewolf, a mummy.
I think I had the mummy.
Frankenstein.
I think I had the mummy and the werewolf. I don't know if I had any of the other
I have
ones,
the
but-
zombie somewhere as well.
But see, I've been also checking out another collecting thing that's kind of in the same vein. So I've been on and off with Funkos. At first, I got a rash of horror ones and ended up selling most of my horror stuff off because the wife wasn't crazy. Abby wasn't really crazy about displaying it, even though Abby likes horror, more than she will admit.
Yeah.
And as Jared just gave me a Pennywise bobblehead to take
welcome.
home, so
Yeah.
we'll see how she reacts to
Guys,
that.
just leave it somewhere. Just leave it somewhere. Don't even mention it.
Oh God, she would notice it right away. Now, if you gave me that Johnny Cash, she would absolutely love
You're
that.
not getting my Johnny Cash.
But I did order her the Johnny Cash
Pop.
Funko.
Yeah,
one
the
of the
Pops.
pops. I didn't get the all black one. I got the one where he's in the black and white playing the guitar. But so at first I was getting because pops, there's so many, so I feel like you kind of got to have some kind of strategy with them, or you'll go nuts. And at first for me, that was collecting horror pops, and it was getting like my favorite characters from every franchise. So I had like a Green Ranger, a Vader, a Donatello, and then I just noticed like a bunch of randomness to my collection once I got rid of the horror stuff. So I sold off a lot of my pops, and then the only pops I really got from then on out, if it was a character that Abby and I both like from a movie like Korg from Thor Ragnarok. That was or we both love Blue from the new Jurassic Park movies. Like, we would pick these up here or there. We have a Beagle one because we have Beagles. But then I kind of started seeing toy fairs, teases for what's coming up this year. And two things really got me back into the pop game a big way. One was the Ghostbusters. I'd been waiting for them to do Ghostbusters, and I'm going to get the 4 main Ghostbusters. The other was what, Jerry? Any guess?
Jaws.
Jaws, yeah, because once I knew we had to have those once we saw them because
Go
we're
with your reaction, Jaws.
yeah, and our 2 Jaws Mondo posters.
Oh
Like,
yeah, that's true too.
if
yeah.
it's Jaws, we're gonna pick it up, especially if it's something that we're kind of already collecting.
Have y'all ever tried to get the old McFarlane Movie Maniacs Jaws?
Those are really expensive.
Are they?
Online? Yeah, I've looked
I know
at
some of
those
the
on eBay.
some of the Movie Maniacs you can get for really cheap, and
Yeah.
then some of them are insanely expensive.
Like if NECA did that line now, we would probably pick them up.
Yeah.
But to go back and pay, a little bit more than what we're comfortable with for
Yeah.
paying for aftermarket, we probably wouldn't. So anyway, I'm trying to come up with a reasonable Funko collecting strategy. So I think I have it right here.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep some of my randoms ones. Like we ordered have you seen Captain Marvel, right?
The movie?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we ordered the Flurkin with the Cosmic
Okay,
Cube. So that's
okay.
one that because we both love Goose, Abby and I. But I'm going to do kind of like more 80s and movie stuff from when I was a kid, and then just team. Because I think when you have teams, they look cool together. Like I pre-ordered all the Avengers and the nanotech suits.
Yeah.
Like the original 6. I'm not going to, get like Rocket and Nebula and War Machine. I'm trying to find that Hawkeye Walgreens exclusive out there. And then I have, like I said, Ghostbusters, Jaws. I did pre-order the 89 Batman because I just can't pass that up. Now they have the Batman Forever too.
Yeah.
But then I open up Pandora's box and I get 66 Batman. and I get
It would be cool to have one of every different Batman. if
it
we
would
could.
be very cool, but it
Because
would get
Funko
very
would be
expensive.
more likely to go back and do like Lewis Wilson at some point.
But they haven't.
More likely than anybody else would ever be.
But you can't get the Christian Bale Batman Funko Pops anymore. They're like, they did them for Rises, and now you can, but
Yeah.
on the
You're
aftermarket
ready
for
to-
like $60, $70
you're ready to
a
pay.
pop. But see, we got a new shelf called the Billy. You've seen this shelf. Put lighting in it. It's pretty cool. But so we got a second one. Put one in our bedroom. That's kind of mine. So I put all my trades in there and all my Funkos. And Abby has hers with her books and Harper's books.
Yeah.
And the few Funkos she has. Like I got her a surprise one on pre-order, Elton John, because she's really into the music ones.
Does
So
she listen to this podcast?
yeah, so that surprise may get spoiled. I think I'm gonna give her that for like Easter or something, just to
Okay.
give her like a
Put it
little
in her
something.
basket.
Yeah, get her like a Easter basket or something. Put some candy in there. So don't. Hopefully she's not listening to this. But the thing is, they look good displayed like in front of the trades on the shelf. Like you have, I've seen you do that in here before with
Yeah,
some
I've
of your
done that.
pops and stuff. But when it gets to stacking them, you really got to get creative. Like I've seen people do like spice racks and stack them and whatnot.
Like you have to get risers or something.
Yeah, so like I'm toying and thinking about doing that as I get a few more of these, especially these teams, and kind of putting them all together.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to crowd them on the shelf either. 'cause
Exactly.
They look bad.
That'd be like a Hobby Lobby trip. So,
Yeah, your stuff looks good up there. Like
Yeah.
that's got pops are when they have room to breathe, they're really good display pieces.
Yeah.
But when they're jumbled together, they kind of cancel each other out.
I could see that.
So yeah, I would like to get some risers, but it can't be. It's weird because the shelf's only so high, so the dimensions would really have to work
Yeah.
out specifically in there.
I'm sitting here and I always, people always ask, like, do I, I hear people like, do you collect pops? Because pops are definitely one of those unusual things in the collecting world.
That are mainstream now. That people who don't collect anything
Definitely
seem
one of
to
those
collect
things with
pops.
pops is that people will, there are people who don't collect anything but pops and have never collected anything but collect pops. And then there are lots of people who collect things that just absolutely dislike pops.
Yeah,
It's very strange, but they don't seem to be going anywhere. They still seem to be really popular.
yeah. I thought they would fade out by now, and I thought I would definitely fade out of them. But
So-
every time they're about to, they get a new license or character that you're like, wow, okay, I really want to pick that up. So they're still going strong in the 20.
I'm going to play a game with you real quick, Brad.
Okay.
All right. How many pops can you... Well, I know there's a lot of pops in this room because we're like in my living room this time. So how many do you see in this room? Or more likely, how many different what's the most interesting pops that you see in here? What's the most unusual ones? Like property-wise, I guess.
Mulder and Scully right up there.
Yeah, those are my wife's. So
Yeah.
that's kind of her collection mostly up there. I think.
And the Doctor right
Yeah,
there.
you got the 10th Doctor with the 3D glasses.
Is that Bowie?
It's
from
David Bowie. It's
Labyrinth?
from Labyrinth.
Okay.
Yeah, Jareth.
The most interesting. All right, my favorite is the Hocus Pocus up there.
The
Which
Hocus
those
Pocus.
are your wife's too, aren't they?
Those are my wife's.
Yeah.
We have the Hocus Pocus.
They were exclusives from like Spirit Halloween or
That
one
sounds
of those
right.
Halloween
Yeah, I know
stores
it
or
was
something.
tough for her to get them. I like that we have. We've got a special guest here. Who do we have? We have was it the Sanderson sisters?
Sanderson sisters,
Yeah.
yeah.
This is my assistant. This is the assistant editor of ActionFigureBarbecue.com. This is Adora. Adora, can you tell us which pop is hanging out next to the Sanderson sisters? David S. Pumpkin.
That's the most unique.
Yeah, I
one,
keep David S. Pumpkins out there. I really like the Tom Servo and Crow T robot from Mystery Science Theater as well. Because again, that's one of those properties you don't see merchandise from.
Yeah, and that's what makes Pops awesome, because you see stuff you would never see marketed toward people.
I want to throw one other thing out there.
All right.
I've got the shirtless Goldblum from Jurassic Park up there.
That was a hard one to find for some
It was
people.
a tough one, and that one was really fun. That's really fun because he's up there on our mantle. So just
And he really ties the room together.
he really
as Jerry
ties the
says about
he really
some of his
ties
other
the room together.
collectibles
Yeah.
in the
to
past.
quote the Big Lebowski, he ties the room together.
Talk about a few epic news items. A lot of news coming out this week from CinemaCon. That was the big exhibitors for the people who own theaters and people who cover movies for a living, which we used to do here on NavorReview.com.
Never for a living.
But have went out there, and so we had some news come out of that. But really not going to get too much into that because it was a lot of exclusive trailers that were shown that we can't play or have no access to. But as those come out, hopefully we can talk about them in the future. There's a lot of stuff been leaking out about what will essentially be the MCU's Phase 4 plans. We got rumors of a Doctor Strange 2 for a 2020 release.
Makes sense.
We got rumors of Rachel Weisz being cast in the Black Widow solo movie that we don't have any rumored release date for. And then we got rumors of Kumail Nanjiani, who's a comedian and was in the movie The Big Sick, starring in the Eternals, as well as Angelina Jolie being confirmed for the Marvel movie The Eternals.
Okay.
So, Jerry, this is a lot of random rumored Phase 4 news. So I kind of wanted to put this together and pose a question to you. Are you worried about the MCU post-Endgame? Like, because they've called this the Infinity Saga. That was the 22 movies that include Endgame coming out here in a couple weeks. But nothing now they hadn't confirmed anything, and they're not going to until after Endgame, of course. But nothing really for this next phase gets me super excited. It's Marvel. Of course, I'll go see it. You got Guardians 3. We got
Guardians 3 already should get us all excited.
It's not coming out until the year 2022, though, is what they said, because James Gunn's doing Suicide Squad for DC and Warner Brothers. But I'm worried that this is when, after this is concluded, this Infinity Saga with Endgame, that people are going to be like, all right, the story's over. The Hulk, the Captain America, Iron Man, Thor, apparently Black Widow's coming back, but all the original Avengers are kind of done. So you'll see this kind of superhero popularity fade out a little bit. Do you think that's a possibility with this next slate of movies and with those big actors walking away?
I think it's always a possibility, but do we know exactly how many folks are walking away? And I think that's the case, is we don't really know how many people are walking away. I think we have a lot of speculation, but
yeah.
Let's think about.
We'll know more after Endgame.
We still. Obviously, it seems way too early for them to do away with Black Panther.
Well, yeah, that
billion dollar film.
Yeah.
Captain Marvel is
$1 billion film.
$1 billion
$1
film.
billion.
We've had Doctor Strange, who seems to have had quite a following. Sounds like the Guardians of the Galaxy are still going to be around. So it seems like we're still having plenty of characters, even if we take out those folks who've been there from the beginning. We still have plenty of folks lined up. Spider-Man.
Yeah.
There is still. If you want to try to make an argument that, Marvel is losing their A-list and they're going to have their B-list team, their B-list team is stronger than about anybody else's at this point. Their B-list,
especially when you say Spider-Man.
And I'm saying B-list not because of Spider-Man, but because of, if we're talking about for the Avengers film so far, Marvel Cinematic Universe, I'm thinking A-list being those core Avengers that we've had around since the beginning.
Yeah. But here's a question I have. Like, take, for instance, Captain Marvel. If Captain Marvel doesn't come out right before Endgame, if she's kind of released in a vacuum and it's not this, she's going to be in Endgame. Everybody kind of knew that because they follow these movies so closely, even if they don't follow anything else too geeky that closely, because by this point, superhero movies have become mainstream pop culture. Does Captain Marvel do as well if we know she's not going to be in Endgame?
Well, I think the biggest thing is we have to see that, what they're going to set up for the next phase. And
let me ask you this. If the next phase is Black Widow, Doctor Strange 2, The Eternals, Guardians 3, Black Panther 2, does that excite you? Is that a good phase of movies? What do you think?
I'm still pretty excited. Again, those have been some of the top movies from the series. Here's the biggest thing. They were smart in that they tied everything into a storyline.
Yeah.
Everything eventually tied into the Infinity Stones, the Infinity Gauntlet led to Thanos.
And Infinity War.
Post-Infinity War, what they have to do is get folks excited again.
So what is the big story you would like to see them build toward? What do you think I'll pose you two questions. What do you think it will be? What do you think it should be? And that could be the same answer.
I think they could use something based off of the concept of Secret Wars.
Yeah, that would be a big one.
To lead to something. That could be really good. I think the Skrulls.
Yeah.
We've introduced them in Captain Marvel. Now, they're not all enemy. They're not all villains in Captain Marvel.
Yeah.
But I think the Skrulls could lead Skrull invasion. could be a good good course to go on.
Like the Secret Invasion.
But let's be
storyline.
honest. At this point, from what I've heard, and I know this is rumor, this is early, people do not seem to be real thrilled with what's this new X-Men movie coming out? Phoenix?
Yeah, Dark Phoenix.
I've not heard great
It's
things.
supposed to be as bad as Josh Trank's Fan 4.
Yeah.
Which is considered the worst superhero film of all time.
If you're telling me that at this point, Marvel Studios has access to Magneto,
yeah, they do, but
they have access to those villains.
Doctor Doom.
They have access to Doctor Doom.
Galactus, Silver
You're telling me
Surfer,
Doctor
Super
Doom,
Skrull.
Galactus, you could herald in a whole new threat.
No pun intended.
Yeah, no pun intended. You could bring in a whole new threat of top-tier Marvel villains, add in Fantastic Four, add in X-Men if they chose to, and you still have some great established characters that folks already know. And let's be honest, there are going to be some actors from those originals that are still going to hang around. There are going to be some that are going to be, those legacy characters who may show up. I mean, you might have somebody else show up in one movie later on, and that would still be a big pop for folks.
Yeah.
I think for us to think that things are going to just end after Endgame is pretty short-sighted.
I don't think it's going to end. I just wonder if it will be as popular as it is right now.
Well,
that's
it's pretty hard to say it's as popular as right now, but you get another good storyline going. You cast a couple more great villains that get people, excited and keep wanting to see every film. And that's been where Marvel has had a strength, is at this point they've made it where thinking if I miss this movie, I'm gonna miss a bigger part of the whole puzzle, and so folks want to go. And that's been the real thing, is they've made everything feel like it was significant.
And the thing is, though, the rumor is that your X-Men movies, your Fan 4 movies, yes, those are gonna get people excited to know that Marvel has control of these again, just like Homecoming did when they had their Spider-Man movie in the MCU for the first time. Those are not probably going to be out until 2023 is what they're saying. So you're going to have a phase of movies that are the Eternals and sequels pretty much. Mm-hmm. So I know if you can get people through this phase and keep them excited, then if you can get to that next phase where you bring in the Fox characters, which I think is good to wait a while because it gets those older X-Men movies out of people's mind, kind of cleanses the palate a little bit.
Right.
But if you can get to that and keep the fever still high, then I think you're in good business. But it's just during that time period where any of that interest be lost. That's kind of what I'm worried about. And I think if they do what you say, they don't have to maybe show Doctor Doom until 2023.
Yeah.
But if they tease Doctor Doom, or they tease Secret Invasion, or they tease Silver Surfer, whatever, fill in the blank,
right,
then you know what's out there, and maybe that holds your interest just that much more.
Yeah.
And I hope, because there's rumors they won't even do like another big saga like they've done with the Infinity Saga. I hope that's not true.
I think leading up to something is absolutely the way to go. I mean, that's kind of worked for everything. If it all feels... I mean, I like that the movies have stood alone. I mean, Captain Marvel, even though it came out right before Endgame, it stands alone as its own movie.
Yeah.
Nearly everything else as well, except the Avengers movies, but they still feel important. Every movie feels like it's important and adds something to it. What else is coming out? Is it Shang-Chi?
Oh yeah, that
Master
was
of Kung
I
Fu?
forgot about that.
Yeah.
One. I can't believe I forgot. That's another one.
It's another
for
one
this
that they're
next
talking
phase.
about.
So basically, your new movies will be the Eternals and Shang-Chi.
Yeah.
Shang-Chi, and then I guess Black Widow, even though she's been around, but still hasn't had her own like standalone franchise. But I think she will be probably the only one that's sticking around, Scarlett Johansson, because she's basically guaranteed a solo movie. At this point. But let's transition real quick to some DC news. We got the word that James Gunn's coming back. Suicide Squad 2. He's coming back for Guardians, but at first he's got some work to do for the competition. Suicide Squad 2 comes out August 6, 2021. They cast Idris Elba to play Deadshot to replace Will Smith. Now they're saying that he will play a different character. He's not going to be Deadshot. This is like brand new news.
Yeah, I just saw this today.
As of today, or late last night at 1. who do you think he could be playing? I was trying. I mean, you know more about the DC characters. I kind of Googled and did some research, and I got a few I'll throw out there.
You made the joke earlier that Red Tiger here looked like Bronze Tiger.
That's the one that
Bronze Tiger is an incredibly integral part of post-crisis Suicide Squad. You know, when Suicide Squad first started getting really big at that, late 80s. I mean, Bronze Tiger was definitely a lead character there. So I could see him as being Bronze Tiger. I mean, here's someone who's, competent, professional, skilled.
That sounds like Idris Elba.
It sounds like
Very
Idris Elba,
cunning,
doesn't it?
A cunning
Yeah.
character. Yeah, Bronze Tiger would be my first pick. There were rumors out there of Massacre. He's a Batwing villain from the second volume of Batwing in the New 52. There's another villain called Lightweaver. Now, I've chosen African-American characters. That doesn't mean that he couldn't play a character that was previously white, too. But I was just trying to
think
down
of
this list
Suicide
a little bit.
Squad of who was
Bronze Tiger's the go-to.
Bronze Tiger's the go-to because he's such a key part of Suicide Squad. And again, I know that they've said that this is going to be a soft reboot or something of a sort. I mean,
so no Slipknot. Slipknot's not returning.
Yeah. Regardless, having him as a new character is definitely I think a good way to go, because that's the good thing about Suicide Squad is you have these characters that come and go. I mean, you can have characters that change in and change out.
It also leaves the door open for Will Smith to return as Deadshot one day if this becomes to be some huge hit.
I know they're not really wanting to tie these movies together as much anymore as they were, but if they're already bringing in some of the cast back, then it makes sense not to try to
completely uproot
to
things.
confuse things.
But the thing is, too, and I want to have a discussion topic at some point later on down the road about this, is there still a DCEU?
Yeah.
Because movies like The Joker, clearly not, and that's stated by Warner Brothers, but movies like Shazam that's coming out this weekend, they are considered to be in the DCEU.
Seem to be.
So why keep that there if there's no future plans, to bring these characters together in some way? But that can be a discussion topic one day. Basically, is there still a DCEU? Should there be a DCEU? Go ahead, Jared. Did you want to make
I just want to say I think around Wonder Woman 1984 would be an interesting time for that discussion.
That would be.
To see what they do at that point with that film.
And I will say some quick DC Comics news before we get into our more of a DC Comics mini controversy, if you will, before we get into our featured discussion, which is DC based in the Joker trailer. That Tom King got a lot of criticism this week. I love Tom King. He wrote the Vision comic, which was Eisner Award winner. I'm almost done with his Mr. Miracle, which is one of the best comics I've ever read. I'm going to have to let Jerry borrow that. That won an Eisner Award. So Tom King has won back-to-back Eisner Awards, but the biggest thing he's doing is Batman. He took over for Scott Snyder. And you've read a lot of his Batman run in trades. I read up to The Wedding's what I read up to.
The Wedding is the last thing that I've read.
What was that, like 50-something?
See, with reading trades, I don't remember. I just got the newest one.
Okay.
The Volume 8 that's out. It's a Penguin-themed story.
Yeah, I need to get
I just
that
got
one.
that one.
But anyway, a lot of people are saying that his Batman story is incoherent.
Incoherent?
That's what a lot of people are saying on Twitter, and he's getting a lot of criticism because things aren't tied as neatly together as they kind of were in the Snyder and Capullo run, whereas Snyder was great about asking questions but then paying them off.
Yeah.
the opposite like J.J. Abrams, right? All right, so I don't know, this seems like a more abstract Batman run in a way, Tom King's.
It is.
And he even came out and said, hey, you're spending money on these comics and whatnot, and you're vested in these characters, so I'm completely open to the criticism that right now these stories are incoherent. I basically came out and said, I just hope that you'll stay along for the ride.
Yeah.
Now, that was kind of vague because it wasn't him saying, I'm going to pay this off. It's
my first question for someone saying Tom King's run is incoherent would be, have you ever read Grant Morrison's Batman?
Yes, I have. I read
I'm just kidding.
Morrison's Batman.
I like
that's abstract.
That's very abstract too.
Those two omnibuses are out.
I see what you're saying. So again, I'm reading Tom King through trades, so it's been a little while,
and it's easier to digest it that way too.
It is.
I think.
I think reading it as a book, because I mean that really seems to be. I know people throw around the phrase "writing for the trades," but
Yeah.
I mean that really seems to be the way people are doing comics. I was driving to a training a couple weeks ago, and I called Brad, and we had a great discussion. It should have been a podcast.
Yes.
Jinx.
Yeah, Jinx.
Can't talk till someone says your name, Brad. Shit.
Idaho.
Anyway. So, anyways, we were talking about, I mean, will there be a future where rather than single issues, there's some comic or something where just trades just come out?
Well, we were talking about that because at the time DC had announced they were cutting their books down to 22
That's
a month,
right, yeah.
main releases, which was basically cutting them in half.
Yeah.
And there was a rumor that Disney was going to get rid of Marvel Comics altogether as C2E2, which was bullshit. You
Yeah.
know, I mean, that's what it was. Excuse me, pardon my French. But
Sorry, we have interns running around here, Brad.
Yeah. So anyway, which was ended up being bogus, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And they came out and they had a bunch of panels, and what Marvel ended up announcing was Absolute Carnage and 2 other events that are at least one that's kind of shrouded in mystery right now.
Yeah.
And they revealed that Hickman's going to work on some X. So they were revealing stuff people's working on. So nobody's canceling Marvel Comics as of now. Now, that would really upset me if they did, because while I don't buy single issues, I still buy those trades. And
Yeah, absolutely.
I go back and read old stuff, but I still try to stay current on
Sure.
a lot of the stuff, too, through trades.
But going back to Tom King, I mean, I think if you read Tom King's in the trades thus far, they've been really good. Now, is he abstract? Tom King is definitely writing a very different Batman series, but one of the things, and this might be a discussion, this might be a whole other can of soup, Brad.
Like another discussion topic.
But as we'll say, we're gonna get into this with the Joker, so maybe this is the perfect segue.
Yeah.
There are characters that when somebody comes out with a interpretation of them, and it's not good or it's not what you want, it's really upsetting because it feels like that's your chance.
The Mandarin.
Well. So, okay, let's go ahead and go with the Mandarin for a second. So, you have the Mandarin. Here is a key level.
The Mandarin.
The Mandarin,
right?
as Brad said. If you come out with a character like that, I mean, that is I know there are elements of the classic Mandarin that are problematic in today's culture.
Yes.
But it looked like the movie was going in a great direction.
Yes.
If you were a fan of that character, guess what? You are not going to see the Mandarin on screen.
You're talking about when Guy Pearce rips his shirt off and goes, "I'm the Mandarin."
Was it Guy Pearce?
It was Guy Pearce.
Okay, it was.
It was, right?
Oh, I think so, yeah. You are not going to see, my wife is shaking her head, yes.
It was
You are
Guy
not going to see the Mandarin on screen for a long, long time. Your chances are blown.
Yeah.
Your chances are blown.
And they had mentioned the 10 rings, and it had been built up.
But here's the thing. Characters like Batman and the Joker at this point, if a Joker movie comes out, which it is, or if a new Batman book comes out and it's terrible, guess what? It is not going to kill that character. It's actually just it's that character has so many different ways to tell that story. Yeah. And so at this point, I really like folks who try and do something different with Batman.
I like Tom King's run.
And I think Tom King's run is good. I think Tom King is really interested. I think he's really interested at getting into a lot of how the personal life of getting into the personal life of Batman. Getting into Batman as more than just a symbol. And not Bruce Wayne necessarily, but Batman as a person.
Yeah, because Batman is Batman. I know Bruce Wayne's a disguise, so there's really not much to Bruce Wayne. So you can basically have 2 avenues to explore Batman. Batman, the Cape Crusader, the crime fighter, and Batman, the actual man, the person, the Bat family, Alfred, Selina Kyle, and that's what he's chosen.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because Scott Snyder goes with the big, like, blockbustery, talks. And he did some stuff with Batman as a person, too, but not to the level
He did
Tom
a lot of
King
stuff with
has.
Bruce Wayne as well. He actually did a lot of stuff with Bruce Wayne with different people, with Gordon as Batman.
Yeah.
I think Tom King's doing something different, and thus far, I think his writing is complex. I think he definitely writes with a lot of there's a lot of moving parts.
Yeah.
You know, his Batman is almost written like some of the Mission Impossible movies. You know, there's all
Which he comes from that background.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He does come from that background in CIA. He worked for the
Yeah.
CIA
Yeah.
in some way, capacity. So I really like Tom King's run. I will admit I was disappointed with the way the wedding turned out.
Well, I mean,
I thought it was a bit
we
of
could see the writing on the wall as
Yeah.
Batman fans, but how it was built up.
I thought
you're
it
like,
was a little bit of a cop-out because I thought something really interesting could have happened. But regardless of it, I do like his run. I think he's got some very, very, very strong books. He does some very different stuff. I mean, again, here's a character. How many Batman titles are usually running at one time?
There's not as many now as there
Not as
have
many now,
been.
but still, there's a lot of Batman titles. And Tom King still manages to find some pretty new stuff to do with Batman.
And you
which
gotta also
I appreciate.
You got to think right now. He is defining Batman. There's no Batman TV shows right now, no cartoons, right? There's no Batman movies right now. We're going to get the Matt Reeves one in like 2021 or 2022, somewhere in that. So, like, he is giving the definitive take on Batman right now. So, therefore, it's going to get a lot of attention instead of it being splintered across, like, the Arkham, like when the Bell movies were out, you had the Snyder Batman, you had, meaning the Scott Snyder Batman.
Right, you had Scott Snyder.
You had the Arkham games, you had the Beware the Batman cartoon.
I think Brave and the Bold still. Brave
That
and
was
the
at
Bold
the
was on.
beginning
Was kind of after
Bell.
Dark Knight.
Yeah,
After Dark Knight, you had Brave
yeah.
and the Bold.
And so it was kind of Batman fans, which are some of the most ravenous fans out there, had their attention kind of splintered.
Right now, we have like Lego Batman,
Yeah.
and we have.
What?
I'm pointing at Brad like he should read my mind. The various DC animated films.
Yeah,
I mean
which
that's kind of what we
Batman's
got
not
at
in
this
every
point.
one of those.
Right.
and
I mean, but there
there is a Hush one coming out
Yeah.
down the line, and there's the Batman TMNT one coming out down the
Yeah.
line. But those are kind of like one-offs, you know. There's
Yeah.
not an ongoing story. So for better or for worse, he's defining the character for like pop culture and for people right now, and so he's going to get a lot more attention.
Absolutely.
For that. But speaking of Batman, let's go ahead and get into our featured discussion, which is about
Joker.
Todd Phillips' Joker, played by Joaquin Phoenix, the initial trailer for that.
Arthur, does it help to have someone to talk to?
My mother always tells me to smile and put on a happy face. She told me I had a purpose to bring laughter and joy to the world. Hey, stop them! Is it just me? Or is it getting crazier out there?
Smile, though your heart is aching. Smile, even though it's breaking. When there are clouds in the sky, you'll get by.
What?
If you smile to your fear and sorrow, smile, and maybe tomorrow you'll find that life is still worthwhile. If you
What's so funny?
just
Freak?
Gotham's lost its way. What kind of coward would do something that cold-blooded? Someone who hides behind a mask.
I used to think that my life was a tragedy. But now I realize it's a comedy.
Now, Jerry, this is a movie that at the beginning of 2019, I'm on Letterboxd now, which is like a social media app for film lovers. You can do reviews, make lists. It's really cool. Check it out. Letterboxd with the D on the end.com. And so this was my number one most anticipated movie of the year. Before we saw a trailer, ahead of Star Wars Episode 9, which we still don't have a title, ahead of Avengers Endgame, which is obviously I'm super stoked about, this was my number one. And it was my number one because I knew that Joaquin Phoenix is one of the best actors, period, today, going. Male or female, young or old. He is one of the best. And to me, I always looked at this as I mentioned to you on the phone when we kind of discussed this trailer before we decided the podcast, I saw this as like a boom bust type film. Either this is going to be something that kind of fades into obscurity that people like you and I appreciate, or it's going to be a performance so disturbing, so riveting that he gets Oscar consideration, maybe nomination, at the best a win. And that's what gets me so excited about it.
I agree. This is definitely I'm going to say this is the most unusual it's not a superhero movie, but let's be honest, it's about a supervillain. This is the most unusual thing I believe that's come out of any superhero movie that anybody is trying to do, which is a deep character study of a villain from a comic book.
That is a tragedy.
Yeah.
Described by Phoenix,
is pretty
described by
interesting.
Todd Phillips.
And I agree with you. I know I think when I saw this trailer the other day, I watched it again and I called you and I said, we need to podcast this Saturday and we need to talk about this trailer. It's definitely going to be a movie that I think we watch it, and I mean, it's going to be this brilliant new take on the Joker, and I mean, it's going to be like just a great film, or we're going to be sitting through it being like, why in the world did we ever want a character study of the Joker?
What is going on?
Yeah,
here?
I'm pretty interested in this, and there definitely seems to be a lot of positive feedback from this, and then there's definitely a lot of folks that are criticizing it with it's clear already that these folks don't understand the Joker.
Well, the critical
character.
community and the film community seem to be embracing it, whereas the comic book community and the fanboy, fangirl community are some are negative, but some are just kind of weary about it.
So here's the thing, and I just said this about Batman a couple minutes ago. There are so many depictions of the Joker in film that if you don't like this one, there's going to be another one soon. Don't worry.
Yeah.
You're not going to kill this is not going to kill the Joker.
Undo the Joker performances of the past.
Right.
Either.
And it's not and nothing that comes after it is going to be beholden to behold this movie as so far as we
better for worse. I want to talk about
from what
that.
we've heard. So I think one of the things that is interesting is you almost have to go into this movie and some of these DC films at this point, I guess, almost with that, seeing that, imagine you see that Elseworlds logo at the beginning.
Yeah.
This is another take, because, I mean, the Joker has no backstory. The Joker has lots of backstories.
Yeah, like
the
Red
Joker's backstories are multiple choice.
Yeah.
And so this is just another take, and it looks like an interesting take.
It looks very Killing Joke-esque with the stand-up comedy stuff. This is going to be a Killing Joke movie.
The movies that they throw around a lot, that this is kind of in the style of Taxi Driver. I mean, I definitely see influence there. Midnight Cowboy. I mean, I definitely see kind of that, that set late 70s, early 80s. I think it takes place in 81. Sort of that look at like inner city life. Brad, you're sitting there putting one of my action figures in your mouth right now.
Sorry, that's what I used to do to my turtles.
Yeah, let's not do that. It says 14 and up on the package, but I don't think you're hitting that threshold.
Yeah, I don't think I'm hitting that threshold.
So, anyways,
inner city in the 80s. I mean, Gotham basically, a fill-in for Chicago, New York.
Yeah.
New York in the 80s, much different than a New York City in 2019. I mean, you did not want to walk in the streets, and you didn't want to go to Times Square at night.
Yeah.
Like you can now. There's cops everywhere. It's a tourist destination.
Right.
Just like a lot of gritty and just looks like just grime like oozing off each shot of this film. which I think is going to be something that people will either love or they're going to hate. What do you think about Joaquin Phoenix being cast as a Joker? Because, I mean, obviously I'm extremely high on it, as I mentioned at the top, but...
He is Joaquin Phoenix is a solid actor. I mean, I can't think of anything I've ever seen him in that I didn't think he did a good job in.
He's got a lot of range, too.
He does have a lot of range, and it's so interesting. I mean, when he puts that makeup on, it's just so odd. And
You're talking about the kind of the final like Joker suit, the whole thing.
Yeah,
or
to see him transition in this trailer, even from like maybe a regular person to the Joker. I mean, it almost looks like you're watching different actors at times, and I'm really curious. I mean, this really seems to be very much a passion project with everyone involved.
Yeah,
it definitely doesn't. I mean, obviously, if you're making movies, you got to make money. I mean, otherwise you don't make movies anymore, you know. But this definitely feels more like a movie that folks are doing because they want to do it versus that this is like a crowd-pleasing blockbuster that's made for everyone. I mean, it's just such a different take. I don't know that it has... You mentioned The Killing Joke earlier, Alan Moore's Killing Joke. There's elements of it that for some reason also remind me of Brian Azzarello's Joker, although that's a completely different book and it doesn't really have a lot to do with the Joker's origins.
And that is very like right after Heath Ledger's Joker and looks a lot like the Heath
There
Ledger
are a lot
Joker.
of things there, but it's kind of this that's I guess just an alternate, unique take on the character.
What do you think about Todd Phillips here? Todd Phillips is a comedy guy. He did all the Hangover movies. He did Old School.
Old School was the one I remember.
He did a comedy that I really enjoyed that had De Niro's in this film, that had Robert Downey Jr. and Zach Galifianakis called Due Date.
Oh, I remember that.
In which Downey was with Galifianakis, who was basically playing Alan from The Hangover again. Yeah. And he was trying to get him to the birth of his first child. They were road tripping across the country. Which was a pretty good movie, but here's a guy he's a comedic actor, you know? But so is somebody like Adam McKay, who just did Vice, which was great. Adam McKay is known for like Anchorman. Vice has comedic elements, but Vice is like a character study on Dick Cheney, who's a real person, even though he seems like a character sometimes. So the transition, comedians can be dark.
Yeah.
And they're in touch with some sensibilities that you may not see from the surface, but if you dig deep into them, they are. So the fact that this guy's done comedy is not really turning me off to this movie. What about you?
No, I mean, not at all. One of the things I always think about a comedy is a comedy typically has to be entertaining the whole way through in some way. There has to be something that's captivating people because there's not necessarily, payoff.
Yeah.
Like an action movie or typically a suspense movie. So, I'm curious to see, I mean, there are elements of the Joker that are intended to be comedic, so it'll be weird to see those through the lens of this film. To see the Joker's character through the lens of a film that looks so dark. Not so dark at times. I mean,
it looks like a lot of the color palette of not even more like Burton's Batman in a way. Kind of if you took Burton's Batman and you took Snyder and Nolan's Batman, you put them all in a blender. You would get like the color palette for this film.
Yeah, I mean it's a very again, the Joker absolutely stands out as being like the only colorful thing in these films. I mean, it's interesting watching a trailer.
He pops.
Yeah. It's interesting watching a trailer and already being like, I feel sympathy for the Joker, which is such a weird concept.
But I think that's what we're going for here. I think that's what this version's going for.
The Joker is a character we've seen so many times in so many different ways that he can handle a different, completely new take.
Did you see the poster that they released?
Not sure I did.
It's pretty cool. It was pretty simple. I put it out there on my Instagram at The Real Brad, but he's just it's a different look of the Joker than what you see in the movie. It seems like almost an image of him between the like clown image in the beginning and the finished Joker image in the end. So it almost looks transitional. He's like holding up his hands, and my computer's not hooked up to the internet, or I would show Jerry real quick. I probably have it on my phone. Give me one second.
No problem.
But it's almost like he's a ringmaster. Here we go. It's on my phone. in the middle of like a ring.
I have seen
putting
that.
his
Yes.
arms up,
Yeah.
but he's got blood on his chin, it looks like, or maybe that's makeup streaking, but it looks pretty demented. Like,
We'll
just look
see.
at those eyebrows
Yeah,
there.
it's pretty creepy.
There was a film Joaquin Phoenix was in called You're Not, I believe it was called, it was either You're Never Really Here or You're Not Really Here.
I'm Not Here.
Or maybe that's
Is this
it.
the one where he was on David Letterman and it seemed like he was like stoned out of his mind?
No, that was a different one. I forgot the name
That was
of
the
that.
Casey Affleck movie.
Yeah, but he was playing a guy who was a former military man.
Oh, okay, this is not that.
And he was basically somebody who had PTSD, and he's living with his mother. And he was about 60 pounds overweight, which he's a stick for the Joker now.
Yeah.
And he went in and broke up child sex trafficking rings.
Gotcha.
And it was so dark.
Yeah.
And he embodied the character which he was the good guy in this
Right,
scenario, but
right.
it was just such dark material. And every situation he dealt with, he's almost a vigilante in a way.
Yeah. What's it called?
Hold on, my internet.
Okay,
I'm not
we'll have to
hooked up
look
your
later. I mean, it
internet,
sounds
but
interesting.
I think it's called You're Never Really Here or Not
Okay.
Really Here, which sounds like the title. I know exactly
Yeah,
what you're
yeah,
talking
yeah,
about,
yeah.
but that's a different movie. That's
that
the
one where he was on Letterman, he wore the glasses,
Yeah.
and David Letterman was like,
Yeah.
well, Joaquin, I'm sorry you couldn't be here tonight. You know, where
Yeah.
he said he was like a rapper now. It's what he always wanted to do.
a
and-
pretty infamous like appearance by
Yeah.
him. But does this feel like a good direction for the character following Jared Leto's performance? Or is it
I am more interested in this take than I am in seeing more of Jared Leto's Joker, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, Jared Leto's Joker was not my favorite, but again, he didn't get a lot of time to explore that character in the movie.
sounds like he explored it more on the set than we got to see him explore it in the movie.
Yeah, I mean, that character had he brought a lot of baggage to that character already before we ever saw that character on screen.
But it's interesting with the Joker, you don't get unknowns or lightweights to play this character. Nicholson was an Oscar winner.
Yeah.
One of the biggest names in Hollywood at the time. Still is, but especially at that time. You think about Heath Ledger just coming off Oscar talk for Brokeback Mountain.
Yeah. I mean, Cesar Romero he was a big name.
Okay.
The original, I mean, the actors playing the villains in the original 60s Batman.
They were all pretty big.
They
at the
were
time.
they were big actors.
And you talk about Jared Leto, he had just won an Oscar for Dallas Buyers Club, and Joaquin Phoenix been nominated. I don't think he's won, but he didn't win for Walk the Line. Reese Witherspoon did.
Yeah.
But still, though, these are Oscar-worthy. That's what makes the Joker so interesting, I think, every time you see him on screen, is because they don't pick, lightweights to play this character.
they
They
do
get
not.
people who can really consume the role, and usually you're happy with the result. And I think that's the way, it will be with the Joaquin Phoenix. And I like the Jared Leto take. I would have liked to have seen it in context with Batman.
Right.
Which I think is one of the things I want to get to here with this Joker movie. How do you think general audiences will react to this movie based on what they expect out of this movie? Because when you see the Joker, you expect Batman.
Yeah.
I mean, they go together like salt and pepper, right?
So this is where I think this movie is going to have a tough road.
It's not that it doesn't have Batman. It's that we're likely never going to see this Joker interact with Batman. If it was like the prequel to a Batman movie, then I think it would be fine because audiences are trained at this point because of Marvel.
I mean, if you imagine if most people told you, hey, we're going to go watch imagine if most people told you we're going to go watch a Batman movie and all you ever saw was like the beginning, a movie that was based on the beginning of Batman Begins before he ever even puts on the suit or ends with him putting on the suit. I think folks,
that's what Gotham is.
Folks would kind of be like, what is going on here? But I think that's going to be the hard road. I mean, there's a lot of folks who are just going to see, oh my gosh, there's a Joker movie. They're going to expect Batman. They're going to expect Harley Quinn.
They're going to be waiting for a post-credit scene with the bat signal.
And they are not sure. I think there's going to be people who are not sure how to take this movie, which is maybe a good thing for a Joker movie. I mean, to watch it and not know, how you're supposed to feel. I mean, it seems like a very Joker thing. Now, I will say, I think this movie looks great. There are elements of this trailer watching it, I was thinking like, this could have almost been like a college humor video about like I mean, it sounds really funny to sit there without knowing about this movie and to say, let's make the Joker as like this really deep, tragic, drama, Oscar bait backstory film.
Yeah.
I mean, have you seen Teen Titans Go to the Movies?
No, but
One of the best DC movies.
I've heard a lot about
It's
it.
incredible. But there's a scene where they're watching a movie, getting ready to watch a film, and there's all these trailers for all these different Batman films.
Okay.
And there's like Batmobile the movie and Alfred the movie. And it's like all these characters just, that are in some way related to Batman. And it's like, man, I mean, that you're talking about most other supervillains, you're having to bring in multiple characters to get people there. With Batman, I mean, you could do an exploration of one of his villains, but that's the strength of Joker. I cannot think of any other supervillain that I think could handle carrying a film like this.
I'm trying to think.
Anybody that would have the pedigree that people could even know about it and say, well, that still sounds, worth it. I know Catwoman has had her own film, but she's also a hero as well, and that's a little different. It was very superhero-ish. I don't know. I think the Joker is completely unique. I mean, and arguably absolutely the most popular supervillain.
Yeah, if you make a list of top 10 villains, period, in all of fiction, he's in the top 10 somewhere, if not in the top 5. I want to ask you this. So, what about the final design? Like when we see the Joker in the full suit. Interesting, there's no scars or facial alteration here.
No.
Do you think we'll have anything like that, or do you think that's just not what this take is going for?
I think this take is going to be more psychological. It's not going to have something happen to him physically to cause, the hair or the skin. It seems to be kind of
just mental.
A choice. Yeah.
Mental, psychological.
He's brought to this point.
And probably societal, because they make this monster.
Yeah.
Because of what happens in the 1980s. What is this film rated? I mean, I can't find a rating now.
It's another great question.
I mean, it's obviously at least PG-13. But
everything about this movie makes me think that this would be an R-rated drama. And while we've seen, I mean, with Deadpool that R-rated films can do well,
I think I would go R on this, though, if it's what we think it is, which is a standalone character story / tragedy.
Yeah.
I think that almost will sit people's expectations because it's like, okay, they're not going to do a Batman that's R-rated.
Right.
I don't think anyone would expect that, nor would they ever do that. One of the more interesting takes, so Kevin Smith, the biggest Batman, no longer literally because he's lost a lot of weight, the biggest Batman fan out there said, this was from his Twitter, the joke is killing, love the tone and feel of this trailer, can't believe we get to see the cinematic fall and rise of the clown prince of crime. And that little boy behind the gates, he makes smile. I'm guessing that kid might see a very dark night one day. So he thinks the kid from the trailer could be Batman, which is interesting. We talked about not many versions of Batman being out there, but Gotham's getting ready to wrap up, which I did. I've watched like 10 episodes. I didn't watch Gotham the whole way through, but people say it gets so good at the end.
Yeah, I'm really curious.
The payoff
to watch
is
more
worth
of
it. But the Joker is on there in the final season. It's built up toward the creation of the Joker, and apparently it's a very dark and very creative interpretation. So you got that out there as well, which is interesting. De Niro's going to be in this film.
Yeah.
He's going to be a talk show host. So I guess you imagine something like what you see in The Dark Knight Returns.
That's kind of what I was thinking. David Endocrine.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
well, I hope that's the name of the character.
I doubt it will be.
It won't be, but I think that would be like a cool nod. But I don't think this movie will be interested in, that type of nod to comic book fans. Is there anybody out there more talented than Joaquin Phoenix that could have played this role? Like the only person I can
We've
think
seen
of,
the test footage for Tommy Wiseau playing the Joker.
Okay, yeah.
And I think, but he was probably out of their pay range. So Joaquin Phoenix was a good second choice.
To me, the only person
Joker.
You know who they asked to do this first, right?
Who?
DiCaprio.
Oh, I heard about DiCaprio.
And he was close to taking it.
Yeah.
Because Scorsese consulted Todd Phillips for this movie.
Yeah.
And
Now he's backed away from the project at this
yeah,
point, right?
yeah, it came once Scorsese backed away, and it was really just a Todd Phillips project. That's when DiCaprio was out.
Yeah.
But I think if Scorsese was directing, like legit producing, not like a name only, like a legitimate producing
Right.
credit or helping write, I think DiCaprio would have been more likely to take it. But when he backed out, they went with Phoenix, who's, I mean, they're about the same level actor.
Yeah.
You know, like other than DiCaprio, I don't know who else I would have rather seen play the Joker. And Joaquin may be a more interesting choice based on the roles that he's taken in the past. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to this movie, man. I don't know, like, where's it compared to Star Wars and Endgame for you? I mean, I know it's different, but
Yeah, it is different. Star Wars is the one I'm still the most looking forward to, but I will say I'm looking forward to it in a different way with a little bit of apprehension in light of The Last Jedi.
Well, there's rumors a lot of stuff from The Last Jedi could get retconned,
And
which
that-
is weird within a trilogy.
But let's we'll leave the doors open there. I would say at this point it is definitely in my top 5.
Well, it's in my top 3. I mean,
Yeah.
for me, it's this in-game Star Wars.
Yeah.
Which it would have been Star Wars if I wouldn't have left Last Jedi with kind of the feelings that I had.
I've
even
got a
after
couple
multiple
others in there.
Podcast.
I'm really looking forward to Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark
Yes,
because
I
I
am
grew
too.
up with those books.
That looks awesome.
and they still look really scary. I am really looking forward to Frozen 2.
Yeah.
It looks incredible, and I'm really looking forward to don't judge me, Brad. Detective Pikachu.
I'm not
Detective
judging.
Pikachu
A lot of
looks
people
incredible.
are. I'm just not
looks
a big
incredible.
Pokemon fan.
But I don't know that. But I would think the Joker is definitely in my top 5 and could be in my top 4.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we're both looking forward to this movie. It comes out, I believe, October 4, 2019.
Can't wait to see the tie-in toy line for this one.
What, you think there's going to be a
No,
toy
I'm
line?
just kidding. We'll be lucky if like Mezco, maybe Mezco will do a
Maybe
figure.
Hot Toys.
Yeah, I'm just joking. It's not going to be one of those that there'll be toys at the store for kids.
Hot Toys really interest me because they really like the Heath Ledger Joker figures is like what springboarded them.
It
Them and the
is.
MCU figures.
Yeah.
You know, so if they do like a cool Joaquin Phoenix Joker and this movie ends up being awesome,
Yeah.
maybe a payment plan's in my
I have
future.
I have high hopes for this. I mean, I have high hopes for this film as being something just really incredible. That's just really different.
You know what I hope is when the movie comes out, we actually review it on a podcast.
I hope so too. Hope we can go see it together.
Yeah, I hope. This is one that, okay, I'm making time. Like this in-game
Yeah.
Star Wars, like Captain Marvel earlier this year, I'm sitting aside time to see this. Like Shazam, Pet Cemetery, want to see, but I can wait till it comes out. But I think that's about all I got on the Joker. Go see it in October. Anything else you want to say?
Keep checking out actionfigurebarbecue.com daily, where I'm serving up hot and fresh reviews. That's Action Figure Barbecue, BARBECUE.com. Reviewing a lot of the new Masters Universe, the Club Grayskull figures based on the Filmation series right now. So come check those out.
And I think for our next episode, we want to do a Phantom Menace discussion. We're coming up on the 20th anniversary of that film. Yeah. So either we'll do it after this episode, or maybe we'll just talk story. I think it depends on how much stuff comes out of Star Wars Celebration.
Yeah.
Because I could see us doing a whole discussion on the Mandalorian and Episode 9 stuff. And
It's a
you
good
know,
time. It could be a whole Star Wars podcast.
yeah, I think we'll either do a regular podcast and talk Celebration, or we'll just do a Star Wars podcast, talk Celebration, and then Phantom Menace.
I just watched Phantom Menace again.
Yeah,
About a
don't
week.
give away your thoughts.
No, I'm just saying about a week ago, and I'm reading. We're reading the Star Wars Queen Shadow right now, which is a
And
book
you got
that-
the 2 figures from the Black Series
I
coming out.
did. I just got a Battle Droid.
Yeah, but you also have the anniversary figures coming out. At
Oh right,
Celebration.
Obi-Wan. Yeah, and then
the
there's they're
Darth Maul.
repackaging Darth Maul on throwback
I
packaging.
love how those look. I think I would have to keep those in the boxes if I got them. Though.
Oh yeah, those ones would. So I really want the Obi-Wan.
Yeah,
'Cause
they
I don't
look
have 'em yet.
awesome. But I think that's just about going to do it for the 104th edition of the Confirmed Epic Podcast.
Joker.
You can find me on Twitter at TheRealBradBell, TREEL Brad Bell. You can find all these podcasts at the Epic Review, thepicreview.com, and on the Geeks Worldwide Radio Network. Just search the GWW on iTunes or go to thegww.com. And once again, from the Hollywood foothills of North Carolina, we are out.
That's all I have to say about that.
This has been a production of the GWW Radio Network. Please don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review us on iTunes, Stitcher, and SoundCloud. Also, check out Geeks Worldwide at thegww.com for all the latest news, reviews, and opinions on video games, comics, movies, TV, cosplay, and more. Geeks, assemble!
Whoa, waterfall, goody fuck you got it all you don't. We do. So boom with that attitude, boom with that attitude. Peanut butter, Reese's cup, mess with me, I'll mess you up.
Yay!
Good job.
Go ahead.
So I didn't see Captain Marvel until after Andrew saw Captain Marvel. And so Andrew had said there was something in Captain Marvel that made him think of Brad. So I was watching Captain Marvel with the thought that something in Captain Marvel would be related to the real Brad Bell. And so I thought it was going to be the part where Captain Marvel lands in the Blockbuster and she goes over to the Radio Shack looking for communication devices.
I used to work there.
You used to work at Radio Shack. And because I texted Andrew after, while I was waiting for the end credit scene, and I said, they should have had the real Brad Bell as 90s Radio Shack guy.
That would have been awesome.
So he laughed, and he told me the part that made him think of you was the part at the end when Captain Marvel takes off, and they say something about, when will we see you again? And he was thinking back in Legion. Will we ever see you again?
And Transformers 4, in which Optimus Prime just takes off.
So I told my wife Kristen about this, and I said, hey, there were parts in the movie that made us all think of Brad, but I'm not going to tell you what they were until after you see it. So she came, and she thought it was that the scientist's name was Marvel.
Yeah.
Which is like, a mispronunciation of Marvel.
But that's what they call them.
Well, I know they do, but she thought it was that because the way you mispronounced Mandarin is Mandarin. So yeah. Marvel made her think of, I don't know.
I just can't believe they mispronounced that.
Yeah.
It's like,
I knew it was the name.
I went back and rewatched the Avengers, and remember I was so upset about Galaga.
Oh, yeah.
And them not saying Avengers Assemble. And I said, this is just a great for me. But even though they literally do assemble, but looking back, that's an epic movie. So, but the thing that I thought it was is it looks like we're about to have this awesome fight between Jude Law and Brie Larson at the end, like without powers, like some kind of almost, I told Jerry, like a Mission Impossible 2.
Right.
Hand-to-hand, like John Woo combat. Nope. She just blasted him, and that's that. But to me, the film had already had enough of a climax I was okay with it, So.
Understandable.